Oh, that's true. Yeah, I don't. I never played around too much with OBS because it solved a lot of problems when I first got it that I didn't have time to figure out in OBS or hadn't had enough opportunity to figure out in OBS. But yeah, that might be a good idea at some point. Streamyard is so convenient that actually the only reason we're using this is because there's too many members to use the free
Yeah.
package, and so
Either
I guess
way,
this is a good experience. But OBS is pretty rad.
yeah. Either way, so like I guess what this is in the Telegram chat now, right?
Uh,
Yes.
All right, cool. So the only place I could afford in this mountain community was a sober living place. So I had to I was considered a normie among their ranks, and I had an addict roommate, and then another addict roommate because that guy relapsed and started to become violent, um, and then another addict roommate because that guy shot up heroin so much that it was staining the ceiling when he did the needle aspiration, and just yeah, it was a bad scene for me, but I would still go out occasionally, where I could, to have an experience or two during my stay there. But ultimately like the program still demanded that I go to these meetings, that I go to the 12-step meetings that they had there. And the thing that was sort of good about that was that apparently it was really fucking hard to get the meeting going. Like, in order to get funding, they needed to have a weekly meeting on premises, in order to get funding to make the place a cheap place to be. So they had this weekly meeting on premises, and the weekly meeting was basically a 12-step and everybody or a AA kind of affiliated program. Like, I think it had its medallion or whatever they call it, the thing that actually makes it an official thing. And like apparently this crowd really didn't like sharing anything at all. And so I would break the awkward silence because I'm not going to fucking exist in a place with awkward silence. Fuck that. Like I already hated it. So I wasn't, because I didn't need that shit. I was doing mostly fine with not being on substances. So the ultimate thing that happened there was uh I would start the meetings by telling stories about how, I got into booze at all, because of my childhood abuse, being bullied, being treated as the other, not much stuff to do, that sort of thing. And it would get a lot of people talking. It would it sort of grease the wheels, because you talk about the stigma at the beginning of all this, and yeah, there's a stigma, and that sort of has a chilling effect on a lot of people's willingness to discuss this sort of thing. But me, anyone who's been following my content or me for any amount of time knows I'm a brazen asshole, and so I'll just kind of do the thing anyway. And so I did that, and some of the stories, basically, they would all sort of lay the foundation for confirming what I thought, which is, people get into this shit because their normal shit sucks, with very few exceptions. Like, people who become addicts start from a bad foundation, and but then it was sort of semi-productive. I got to air out my issues. They liked me there to some extent. Some of them hated me because I'm, what was this guy doing here? He's not an addict. But for the most part, it was well received and it was somewhat okay. But what I noticed is this, and also other programs that I've been in, because poverty, sort of, in order to tick their funding boxes, they have to appear to be doing something. And so they make you attend these meetings. They make you do jump through these hoops in order to go through their programs. And what I noticed was that for me, and also multiple other people there, it was like counterproductive. It was like, why am I spending an hour plus here when I could be going out and doing something productive? Why do I have to attend these when I could be going out and getting a job, or like doing some odd work, or taking a college class, or what could I potentially be doing better with this fucking time? Like, some people 100% they need this, especially since a lot of people get addicted because they lack a sense of community, because their community sucked ass and it treated them like shit, and they don't have anybody to turn to, so they jump down the neck of a bottle or through the needle eye. But like, let's be clear and say that, like, uh even some of those people would be better benefited just by having a more productive use of their time and being in a place or around people that aren't treating them like shit. So what I ultimately found out, because I was in this program technically, even though I was a normie, because like I signed up the same contract everybody else did to get the rent there and shit like that, fucking lease, and also sober, whatever. You promise not to do substances on the premises other than the legally socially acceptable drugs. Um, so it's like that, and also some homelessness stuff that I went through, like some homeless programs, like making you go to um like meeting after meeting and thing after thing in order to basically just get housing. And they didn't care that that took up way too much time and that it stunted people's upward mobility. What they cared is that they seemed to be doing something with their program so that they could get funding. And it made me super cynical. Like, I was already a cynical, pessimistic ass, but this made me super cynical about these kinds of programs, because it was like, come on, guys. If you really want people to move up, then you would stop holding them down and keeping them here. Like, it's fucked. It's And so a lot of these people seem self-interested, like, fucking, yeah, you run a government program to help needy people, but you drive a Mercedes or something like that. It's like, good for you. You know, and I could talk about this. We talked about on Agorist Nexus podcast. We had a homelessness panel there as well. And like, there's just so much wrong with the way these institutional programs fucking work. And it's largely because of their connection to the state. It's largely because of their connection to financiers who want a way to launder their money. Like, it's a very corrupt industry. That's what I wanted to say in response to that. Like, I've got hella experience with these people, and woo, I'll be damned if they ain't some of the most corrupt people oftentimes. Not all the time, oftentimes.
Right on. Hey, all right. So here I'm going to let anybody jump in if they have anything to add. But then after that, I want to go around and sort of find out what individual solutions are, what worked for you, tips, tricks, methods, practices that people here have found useful, that kind of thing. So we can kind of leave on a positive note here. But if anybody has anything to add before that, jump in right here.
Yeah, you made the mistake of having me on for positive notes.
Anybody want to jump in? No? Okay. Well, we'll start back up with the big penguin.
Make somebody.
Okay.
No.
No.
You want to go skip ahead to the round?
Yeah, I'm going to
I
do
know
that.
we're doing okay.
Yeah. Drew, what I'm looking for here is like resources that people could might find valuable if they're struggling with addictions, or practices. I'm not necessarily talking about like institutions or 12-step programs. I mean, that too, but also just, I don't know, like things like meditation or therapy or eating well, or community, like things that work, you found worked in your own life to help struggle through this.
Yeah, so first off and foremost, if you're currently using drugs and you're currently an IV drug user, you need to be aware of the harm reduction organizations that are in your local area. And you can find that information by going to the North American Syringe Exchange Network. That's nason.org. And there's like a fully, like a full heat map. It'll show you where everybody's at, a full directory. 100%. Eventually, whenever you want to like get ahead of this or stop using or whatever, you don't want to have hepatitis C or HIV to deal with on top of it. It's not fucking fun at all. That's what I went through, and it is what it is. But we live in an age where harm reduction is looked at a lot more favorably, so you have options. But beyond that, when it came to like for me getting cleaned up and everything, it was about finding people who wanted the same things out of life that I did. Changing my circle up. I didn't know that people could like have relationships beyond the contents of a dope sack, like my interactions that I had with other people for a lot of years was solely, revolved around drug use. So, whether you're going to meetings, whether you're going to a church, whether you're going anywhere, I don't give a fuck where it is. Like find those people who will support you and root you on and not try to drag you back down into that place you're trying to crawl out of. Like that's a huge fucking part of it. And kind of like Jeremiah was talking about, the opposite of addiction is connection. Like get connected with those people in your community who want to see you do better. And I'd say just, jump off from there. You can find me on Twitter too, at LibertyDrew84. My DMs are open. Holler at me if you just need somebody to talk to or anything, man. I'm always there for you.
Okay, well said. Gonzo, you got anything to add here in terms of like tools or positive methods of something that you use to get around this,
Yeah, absolutely. In my intro, I mentioned that I started a drug education program for my high school. That actually ended up going nationwide, and it's still used to this day, about 20 years later. There are three tenets to that, and I use them still. I came up with them as a methed out 17-year-old, but when you're right, you're fucking right. And there were three things that you do. And the first one I stole from 12 steps. You got to admit that there's something you want to change. The second step is to do what you can to avoid the behavior that you don't want to engage in. Like Drew said, if that's church, great. If it's, getting healthy, working out, going fucking shooting, whatever it is that gives you that dopamine hit that doesn't come from the drug, get involved in that. Take the money that you were going to spend on those drugs and put it into a hobby that you fucking like. Recovery doesn't need to be fucking punishment. You aren't a bad person, you're an addicted person. Don't be fucking mean to yourself. It's not going to help you. More than likely it'll depress you and you'll fucking relapse. So involve yourself is the third step. You avoid the behavior, involve yourself in things that you like. As far as personally, psilocybin is a miracle for me in my life and my mental health and getting off of bad drugs and all manner of. I find it to be very therapeutic. I don't recommend LSD for everyone, but if you are the sort that can handle it, you can learn a lot about yourself. And that's generally I found when I'm abusing drugs, it's because there's something I don't understand about my life or I feel out of control. That's where hallucinogens have helped me to see things from a different perspective, to think about things in a way I typically wouldn't. And I found that to be helpful. Kratom helped me with opiates and with amphetamines because it has both effects, oddly enough. You know, it gives you an up and it gives you a body buzz. No, it's not like snorting Oxycontin, but it's goody fucking enough and not nearly as bad for you, at least. Lastly, what I'll say is if you need to speak to somebody like me, I find me. I'm on Twitter, Gonzo01201. I'm not going to judge you for who you are or what you do. I will talk to you, and you know, if you want my advice, I'll give it. And don't punish yourself. You're not bad. You're just addicted.
Ray, you have something to add here?
I'm just gonna second, what Drew and Gonzo said about the, community and having support people and the harm reduction. Kratom is definitely something that helped me. But with those support people, and I think it's just really important to communicate your needs if there's something that you need that will help you to get to your goal. If the person is, truly a support person, and they will probably be more than happy to help you, whatever that is. Like, I'll give an example. I had to have my husband help me with money for a while. I didn't trust myself holding cash, so I had him just kind of help me, just be an adult and do adult things again, money management. And but yeah, and just, and also what they were talking about, just finding hobbies, and like they're saying, you're not a bad person, you're just an addict. So otherwise, everybody kind of already covered everything else.
Yeah, right on. Chet, you got something to add here, man?
No. I don't know. Not really. Fucking yeah, nah.
Fucking Chet, man. Well, I mean,
I'm fucking really stoned.
Okay, so
like,
12-step didn't help you, man. But what did you just fucking did it, or like, what did you do?
well, I mean, so
imagine, man, there's somebody out there that hasn't found any value or connected to the people that have talked so far, but there's somebody out there fucking like you who's like, nah, fuck it, I just don't like being fucking sick anymore. And so you might be able to help somebody here,
I guess. I mean, it's like, yeah. I mean, I didn't like being fucking sick anymore, and like people started fucking dying. You know what I mean? Like it just wasn't fun anymore. So, but I mean, for me, I mean, I think that's like what it took, and I'm lucky, I guess, that I was one of the people who like in my circle who like did live through it. But like I had to come to that conclusion on my own. Like there's no sort of like recovery program that was ever gonna like matter for me. I don't think. Like once I was at the methadone clinic, so like the first methadone clinic I went to, and I know you were like trying to wrap up. I'm gonna keep this shortish, I guess, but it's like the first methadone clinic I went to was like funded by the city and shit, and was like fucking awful. And like there's people selling heroin in the parking lot. Like, and my counselor was like just this like huge black guy who had like 700 other people, and he didn't know my name. You know what I mean? But then I eventually switched to another methadone clinic, and fucking had a good counselor, so I got lucky there. I mean, I just got lucky as much as anything. Like, I don't think that there's like a solution really for people like me in that sense, except that you just have to make that decision that you don't want to deal with this anymore.
Yeah, fair enough. Enough.
I mean, that's really it.
Right on. Ray, you had something you want to jump in again?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention this. I know some of the other harm reduction things were already mentioned, but there is something called Vivitrol, and it's kind of like a newer a newer drug, and it's kind of difficult to get. But a lot of times they'll make you like complete a program, something, but it's kind of a shame not more widely available. The issue with Suboxone is you basically stay high, and when you are ready to get off of them, it's almost even more difficult than what you were using before. But the Vivitrol is a shot, and you get it once a month, and you don't have any withdrawals when you decide to stop using it. But the thing that makes it kind of difficult, and probably why it's hard to get, is if you have it, they use it for alcohol and opiates. But if you have any opiates or alcohol in your system, like at all, when you get it, like it'll make you very, very, very sick. But if you are serious, about getting clean, and you have the means, to go through a program, and maybe you feel like you don't trust yourself, and you're just not ready to, do it on your own or some other way, that is a really great option. I think that maybe is just not quite as well known.
Awesome. Jeremiah, you're up.
All right, so here's more black pills. They found a lot of the mechanisms for addiction and the psychological harm of substance abuse during the MK and associated programs with the CIA. Not just substance abuse either, just general psychological damage. They would, if you ever have 4 hours and you want to be depressed and angry, watch The Minds of Men by True Stream Media. It's a wild ride and it'll fuck you up. And if you weren't already radicalized, welcome aboard. But basically, the general vibe of it is that the more you isolate somebody, the more you remove their other stimulants, the more you sort of like become their only stimulus, their only way to interface with the world, the more you can control them. Governments know this because of those programs. Drug dealers know this because it's how they retain clients. Alcohol companies know this. Cigarette companies know this. Junk food companies know this. They all know this, that if you keep people in an environment where you're the option, they will say yes. And they will think they have to say yes, or they will at least not really understand how to say no. It's not, just as simple as saying, I've got a higher power, or I've got, a support structure. Like those, fine. If that works for you, great. But like really, those are only useful to people if they can break them out of the controlled stimulus environment being used to keep them in line with the products intended to corrupt and control them. And the ultimate truth is that people aren't going to improve in a general basis, and they're going to continue dying of cancer and, organ failure and all this stuff. And ODing on the floor, being the subject of Nothing More Is Jenny's song, which is very depressing to anyone who's known an addict. But like they'll keep doing that as long as that's what they know, and as long as they aren't being given an alternative option. And so the ultimate thing here is be that alternative option. Don't treat people like shit. Be, logical and reasonable with people, and try to have, their six if other people don't, and if they're not, harming anyone. Be, anarchist, and be their opposite of this control structure that's put them into this place and this headspace to begin with. Because let's be, completely clear and extremely honest. That's what's creating these conditions. Social, sort of decay, the penem et circenses that led us to this point has got us hooked on all this fucking shit. And, the abuse cycle is what creates the substance abuse cycle, is a way you could phrase it. If anyone wants to write that in their future recovery books, feel free to not credit me because I don't give a shit, or credit me because you think I'm based. But the ultimate thing here is that that's what you need to do. You need to be the social improvement you want to see. You need to be the better cage for the rats, where they're going to keep on hitting that shit. And I've met so many people who have no problem with making the world just as bad as it was when they got addicted because of it. They have no problem doing exactly the same kinds of things to other people that created addicts in them and their circles to begin with. And then they wonder why shit sucks so much, or they're just like okay with the fact that shit sucks. And like that needs to change. We need to be more accountable to ourselves. We need to be more accountable to the future and the mark we make on the world. And if we're not willing to do that, then we have nobody but ourselves to blame for addiction being a continued problem. And whatever specific substance epidemic the news wants to use to get clickbait headlines, whether it be fentanyl or alcoholism or them kids be vaping, though, then it's going to continue because the society that made them want to, hit that shit is continuing. And that needs to stop. It all needs to stop. If it doesn't stop, we're fucked. Everything's going to continue with social decay. Everything's going to continue into a spiral of addiction and trying to escape the social decay, and we're never going to get better. It's up to us, and it's going to be much more like complicated than dropping the bottle or a 12-step or an AA or an NA. It's going to be much more complicated, and it's going to start at home. It's going to start with better parenting, better communities, better whatever. We have to be the fucking change, and if we're not, the status quo is our fault.
Wow, I enjoyed that rant. That was good. That was a good one. I guess this leads to me, and then I'll let everybody do plugs, and we'll wrap this up. Couple things that helped me when I was a lad, aside from psychedelics, but the Stoics and Taoism really helped me sort of work through this shit quite a bit, especially like understanding like what you had, the sphere of control that you could actually manipulate rather than allowing like all of reality to weigh down on your emotional state. That all helped me a lot. Working hard and being outdoors, that helped me a fuck ton. And in some sense, I traded doing drugs for being a workaholic. So there is that. But those were very helpful to me. And yes, and the positivity, and honestly, having a kid will fucking change your brain real fast. But positive circles and people around you, that was definitely a big plus. Yeah, I think those are some of the things I used to kind of get through that situation.
Yeah, those are all good. Excellent ending round. I think everybody has something really cool to contribute. Gonzo, what you said really struck me, and it's crazy that you might actually reduce things to like brain chemistry and stuff, or just like a logical sequence of like replacing the addictive behaviors, whether it's from like the biological and biochemical standpoint, or just like occupying your mind and your time with other actions and other things that are taking your attention away. But like that's part of the going back to the rad experiment. I think that's part of the community aspect. So you're not just necessarily doing things soul. I mean, I really rewarding, because you mentioned dopamine, of course. I really like straight up neurologically rewarding and psychologically like rewarding activity where you're building something, making something, repairing something and whatnot, can be absolutely, can provide you the kind of hit that will straight up, I mean, if you want to reduce it to like brain chemistry, provide you with something that very much replaces maybe that like addictive or destructive or just unwanted behavior. Because I certainly have my sets of behaviors. I probably didn't mention this in the beginning, and coping mechanisms for stress. I just don't have anything that falls right into the, besides the cigarettes, into the category of addiction. But I think a lot of us, regardless of what that is, can like take something from this advice. But I mean, yeah, just the act of both communing with others and building actual relationships with other people and having having all sorts of relationships as like neighbors and like close friends and your romantic relationships and everything, and obviously family is super important. And as well, like the act of creating, building, accomplishing things. It can be in some cases a job. Jobs can actually be very stressful also. So on that, I don't know. Your mileage may vary on that, but something, whether it's a hobby job or whatever, where I think that bore out in a lot of people's stories, that where you're creating, building, accomplishing, that's so rewarding in your brain, in your neurological system, and with your psyche, that can actually give you the that's often what's lacking, I think, with a lot of people when they turn to a substance as a coping mechanism. I mean, I know that sounds overly simple, and it's like, why just don't not do that? Well, I can tell you, even just from my experience in life, where I haven't had that experience, that it's not that simple looking back in hindsight. But yeah, I think honestly, that concept of finding something that stimulates you, gives you that dopamine hit and occupies your mind and takes you away from hopelessness and ennui and whatever it is that kind of you absolutely do have to cope with, I think is truly very important. And of course the other guys suggestions also tie into that, but that's the one that struck me the most.
You got to build that better rat cage, man. Nobody's going to do it for you, and we are all dopamine junkies. It's that simple.
Yep, building a better rat cage. I think that's should that be our new tagline to the podcast? We're building a better rat cage. All right. All right. Last chance. Does anybody else have anything to add before we just do plugs and stuff? Jump in now. Ray, go ahead.
I don't know. It's kind of like late in the conversation, but I just was thinking about how like treatment centers are kind of like a pipeline to big pharma, whether you're looking for harm reduction or chances are if you end up in one, they're going to put you on some kind of SSRI or antidepressant, and that just kind of like feeds this cycle, today of just depression and anxiety and medicated people, and how there are other options for that, like listening to some, learning about herbs and herbal medicine and ways to treat those symptoms naturally. But also we just really need to fucking end the war on drugs so we can actually have some like real conversations with people and break that stigma of that, addicts are homeless people living under a bridge. I mean, I think anybody can relate to having a family member that they love, who struggles, and don't look at them like that. There's regular people trying to get help and just trying to make it through the day. I mean, I wanted to be dead. Like I wanted to die. Like I did not want to keep living, the way that I was living, and you don't have to live like that. And so I just wanted to, say that there is hope out there if you're struggling, just find your way.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Appreciate that. Anybody else? And yeah, obviously we have to end the goddamn war on drugs. That's caused more. That's set us back hundreds of years, I think. Oh, sorry. Jeremiah, go ahead.
So essentially the like general thing that I could say in response to that, first off, I have a video coming out soon that I sort of recorded in an emotionally weirdly compromised state. So it'll be it'll be seeing me a little bit ragged there, but like it's going to be a video going over a study and some of the potential adverse effects of bipolar medication. And some of these bipolar meds are the same things given to other people for depression and things like that. And one of the things I go over in the video is the fact that like SSRIs have been proven to cause emotional blunting and impaired decision making, also impaired like ability to learn things. And this is how kids are being raised. Not just that, but like all the things that people listed that they were given as psych drugs, those are all proven to cause like a cycle of horribility. Like um it's not all cases. Some people are genuinely helped by these things, but like they just hand them out to basically anyone, and basically the message should read loud and clear: we want you to shut the fuck up and sit the fuck down, stop being a problem for us. um and we're giving you this pill that we think will quote unquote fix you because you're broken or not right. And that needs to change, because the primary thing that needs to be altered is people need to treat each other fucking better, like I said. And like, not just push everything under the rug, say that maybe the like psychological issues people have are the direct result of the society, or hypermedication, or abuse, or surviving a disaster, one of the 10,000 disasters that happens a year. Like the state itself breaking up the family home, throwing people in prison, or the military, or whatever, for the various industrial complexes it has. And now it's totally not engineered virus with a totally not for profit jab that they totally didn't use to muscle in a surveillance state. Like all this stuff is just compounding to create an environment where things suck. And until people are willing to like actually address those root concerns, none of this is going to improve. And a lot of what these drugs are designed to do is just be a different drug. They don't care that it emotionally blunts you. They don't care that it fucks with your decision making, lowers your libido, makes you unable to cry. They don't give a shit about destroying your human spirit or making you suicidal. They don't care. They care about their bottom line and whether or not the numbers look good on average for compliance and a lack of sticking out like a thumb. But maybe this society needs people who stick out like a thumb because it's fucked up and the reason people are this way. Just gonna say that. Maybe we don't need SSRIs. Maybe we just need compassion.
Yeah, I think compassion is crucial here. And these institutions might not give a fuck, but there's people who do, who do have compassion and who do give a fuck. And if these institutions don't work for you, there you will be able to find somebody that fucking does. Go fucking find Drew on Twitter. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and one more thing also, just gonna, personally, my best way to like avoid even like a strong desire for those substances has been to get out of my previous space, the one that was filling me with all these negative things, emotions, etc. And that's why I'm 4 years clean sober, because I don't live in the shithole like everything's dead desert where everything is either dead or wants to kill you. It's rocks and dissolved rocks. There's lots of meth there because nobody wants to live there, so you can have like your meth lab in the middle of nowheresville, and nobody's going to hear an explosion or smell the fumes. Like there's something to be said for just living somewhere hospitable if you can, living somewhere that actually reifies your humanity and doesn't uh doesn't have like all these hang-ups, or isn't isolated, and has like a good sense of community, or at least things to do. Like when I need an escape, I literally just escape. I go out my door and I go for a run through the hills, the city, wherever I want here, and my head is immediately better after doing that. Like, find a different way to be. Shift your fucking perspective, because the current place you're looking at things from is why you're addicted.
that's a good point too. All right, let's wrap this up here. I got a skedaddle, but let's do plugs. Drew, you want to plug your social media in that?
Yeah. So my personal Twitter is at LibertyDrew84. And for the harm reduction, it's at Shred the Stigma. If you are curious about harm reduction, or you want to start something up out in your area, like I can tell you how we did it. Like, fuck, man, just desire and some duct tape. You can make this shit happen. I promise you. But we need more harm reduction orgs out there. But yeah, if you need somebody to talk to or anything, just holler.
Yeah, thanks, man. Gonzo.
I am Gonzo01201 on Twitter. Like I said, if you need somebody like me to talk to, slide in them DMs, baby.
Jeremiah, you want to plug stuff?
I'm like Jeremiah Harding. You can find me and a laundry list of people who hate me for one reason or another, usually my negative outlook and the fact that I hold them accountable too. No sacred cows in my court. Basically, I do a bunch of conspiracy theories, blackpilling, anti-pedophile stuff, and one of the things I preach keenly is clean sobriety and health and fitness. I also have a Discord server. I also have Jeremiah EXE, which is a backup Twitter I had to use when I was banned for a year and a half for questioning their narratives. I've been on, social media doing this sort of shit for like 14 years now. So, yeah, making people's days worse one day at a time.
Ray, you want to plug some stuff?
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter at @E_agorist. And if you want to learn about herbal medicine making or other ways to improve your life, you can check out our show, which is the Let's Make Some Shit podcast. And I am also, my DMs are also open if anybody wants to talk about anything we talked about tonight.
Tet, and then we'll go back to Jeremiah.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to plug.
You want to give out your social media or no?
I mean, no, I'll be. Why?
Soon to be banned everywhere he is. Our favorite nihilist, Ted.
By the time you hear this, he will be banned and having another account anyway. So that'll be good. Yeah. Jeremiah.
Yeah, I also should say, you can find an episode with Gonzo Sec, and like in general, we do like podcasts at agoristnexus.com, and you can also find 2 new episodes with Sec and the Missus talking about like gardening in general, how to get your life right in terms of sustainability and prepping, what to do with stuff, how to forage with the kids. It's a good conversation set. And then another one, you can check out another episode on this podcast where if you liked my aggressive negativity today, woo, you got a solid 2-hour block of it with that episode. So feel free to go do that if you want to have a worse day.
No, those were all banger episodes that you listed. I would definitely recommend checking all of those out. Well, Penguin, do you have anything to add before we wrap?
No, you can find me here at this podcast. Obviously we have 3 Twitters. Each of us has a personal Twitter, and you can obviously find the podcast Twitter at Agora_pod, and mine at you just go there and actually click the link, or I'm Sapien_Corvid. But that's pretty much what I do. Or you can hit me up on Telegram. My Telegram's on my Twitter bio.
Well, I want to thank all of you for coming on, and I appreciate y'all sharing your stories. I know that's not easy, and I hope that somebody listening to this finds some value in it. But yeah, everybody, thanks for coming on again, and everybody be excellent to each other.
Ciao.
Peace.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, everybody have a good weekend.
All right.
Thanks. You too.
Hey, before like you call it, was that BJ as in Keto BJ on Twitter?
Oh yeah, that's her.
Yeah,
All right,
that's her.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tag
Keto BJ on Twitter. Yeah.
Well, I follow back. If she wants to follow, I can do that. I'm just gonna tag.
I meant people listening to this, but yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry, I thought we were already off. You will. Yeah.
I think
everyone.
we're still going. Are we still? Yeah, we're still going. Technically, this might not be in the episode though.